Today I'm going to get one step closer to finishing my Nighthaunt army. We've already completed the Knight of Shrouds and the Chain Rasp. Now we're going to complete the Reapers. But I'll be honest, I don't like calling them Reapers. They are my vengeful royal knights of the Erudos Kingdom. So let's get into painting these guys up, and we'll talk about, how I'm going to paint them, along with giving you the backstory that I have created for this unit. Alright, let's get into it. I'm doing the same paint scheme I have done for the rest of the army. I'm mostly using Duncan Rhodes 2 thin coats with a little bit of Vallejo game color. Starting with the lower ghostly parts, I used the purple line of Amethyst Rain, Sorcerer's Cloak, and Runic Purple to build up from shade to mid-tone to highlight. I wanted to look a little like smoke where it's lighter near the body of the model and darker towards the edges as it cools. Once I completed all of the purple sections on each model, I then started on the upper leather sections. And yes, you heard that right. The way that I've been painting models for these two armies that I've done is by completing whole sections from shade to mid-tone to highlight before even laying down the base coat of the other colors. At least for this army and my Necron army, I'm doing it that way. Thinking the next one I might change up a little bit. Back to what I was saying. For the leather sections of the cloaked area, I use the leather line from 2 thin coats of Cuirass leather, boar's hide, boar hide, there's no S there, just boar hide, and fur cloak for those sections. And I think this is my favorite part of these models, just because I think it turned out the best. It looks like, for the folds and stuff, a little bit that there's some wear and tear on the leather, and the tops are kind of sun bleached. That's at least what I was going for, and I think it turned out pretty well, because I mostly do a layering style of painting, and blending isn't really my forte or something I really understand that well yet. So I've got to practice that a little bit more, and maybe I can get, looking a little bit better. Maybe something that will help with that is an idea I have of actually using golden acrylic paints and doing some canvas painting. Just, another thought of artistic stuff that I can do for the channel that I can make a video on. And I want to learn blending a good amount more because, like they say, just keep adding tools to your toolbox. While I paint the leather cloaks on these models, let me tell you the tale of the Royal Knights of the Erudos Kingdom. And I want to know what you guys think of my army's story. So leave a comment down below once I finish my story of your thoughts on it. Before the Great Betrayal, the Royal Knights were some of the strongest and most respected warriors in the Erudos Kingdom. Their captain, Julia Telesh, was the fiercest among them. It's said she fought with an elegant ferocity, lithely moving through the battlefield and cutting down many enemies with her longsword. The rest of the Royal Knights are no slouches in combat, but Captain Telesh was on another level. During the Great Betrayal of the Erudos royal family, the Royal Knights were the last to fall. When the enemies made their way into the castle, majority of the Royal Knights met them at the gates of the inner keep. The battle raged for most of the night within the inner keep, the Royal Knights holding their own against the mercenaries and soldiers of the Betrayer Lords. Every hallway of the keep became a bloodbath as the Royal Knights were slowly pushed back, and one by one, they were felled because of the sheer weight of the number of enemies, and from sheer exhaustion for having to fight for so long. The last one to fall was Captain Telesh because of the greatest betrayal. Captain Telesh was still fighting outside of the king's chambers. She was trying her best to conserve her energy when she heard 3 familiar voices shout her name. She turned to see 3 of the knights she trusted the most. They were part of the pairs of knights that were supposed to escort the royal family out of the castle through different hidden passageways. As she turned, she shouted a question to them. The question died on her lips. The air in the hallway froze as she saw what they held. One held King Damar's decapitated head, another, Queen Astera's, and the third held Princess Alia's. Captain Telesh's rage flared to life, and she let out a blood-curdling scream that took all by surprise as she charged the 3. The scream, unknowingly infused with mana, echoed through the hall, made all of the mercenaries and enemy soldiers drop their weapons and cover their ears. Betrayer Knights dropped the heads as Telesh charged them. They stood through the pain. As Telesh came at them, one of them parried her sword swing. The other 2 stabbed her through the chest.
In normal combat, she could take on 3 opponents with just a little bit of difficulty. But adding in the exhaustion of fighting for hours and her incensed rage, she made one careless mistake. With her dying words, Captain Telesh swore an oath of vengeance against all of those who had betrayed the royal family and the Knight Order. With that, the final royal knight was slain. But that wasn't the end of their story. Each knight's soul couldn't rest peacefully, knowing that the betrayal came from within. The knight's oath is sacred, and to break it means death. Their bodies were disposed of in the mass grave in the Ketagast Church's cemetery, but it was their anger that lived on. Their anger, along with all the others that were killed that night, cursed that cemetery for 10 years, until they felt the tug on their souls as someone calls them back to the mortal plane so that they can get their vengeance upon those betrayers. And that is my story for how the Royal Knights became undead Nighthaunt Reapers. And okay, the captain part is the Knight of Shrouds. That's that. Just so we can establish that the Reapers are the Royal Knights. The Knight of Shrouds is Captain Telesh. Because I didn't make, an actual story for the Knight of Shrouds before, I was still working on, world building when I made that video, I want to just include it here. Now, let's finish up painting these models. So once I'm done with all of the leather, I moved on to using bone white from Vallejo's old game color line for the arms, hands, and faces. I put on this first coat, and I swear, remember putting on a second coat, but I'm not finding any footage of me putting on that second coat. So I might just have been having delusions this whole time about how much painting I did. I don't really know at this point. What I do know is that after I finished the bone white, I grabbed Curious Leather again from the leather line of 2 thin coats, and I painted all of the handles on the scythes and bells so that they would have, kind of a darker wood look to them and stand out a little bit from the next step. So when I went to start painting the weapons of my Royal Knights, this happened. You're probably like, what are you talking about? You got up and walked away. So what happened here was something caught my eye out of the back window. And when I looked out there, I kind of just went, holy shit, and had to stop recording to get some pictures of it. A large red-tailed hawk. I think it's large because I haven't seen many red tails around. I don't know if it's juvenile or fully grown, but it came in, landed on the ground in the middle of the backyard. I don't know if it caught something or just saw something there and missed or what, but it just landed on the ground and then went and sat on top of some of the birdhouses at the back of the property or farther back in the property. Like I said, I couldn't tell if it caught something or not because it just sat there for a little bit. Then it would jump down to the ground and then fly back up to the top of the birdhouses. And it just kept going back and forth a little bit. So maybe it caught something, maybe it didn't, but I didn't really see anything. But enough of this tangent. Let's get back to painting, which is using Spartan bronze from 2 thin coats also on all of the scythe blades, bell ends, chainmail, hanging chains, bells that are on the end of chains, all of the metal stuff, and the fence posts on the bottom of the minis. Everything metal got Spartan bronze. But I did miss a few of the helmets when doing this, so I'll have to come back later and do those a bit. Once I completed all of the bronze, again, I grabbed the Curious Leather for a 3rd time and used it to paint the spike straps that go around the front of the hoods for all of the Reapers. This was kind of made to blend into the rest of the leather cloak, and it kind of helps the bronze spikes, helmets, and skeletal faces stand out from it a bit and not really take away with how bright it would be otherwise. And once I was done with that, I grabbed the bronze again and painted all of the spikes and helmets that I missed on the models. As a almost finishing touch, we're almost there, I used Stonewall Gray from Vallejo again to paint the headstones and the other stones that are at the base of the models. I used pure Stonewall on them. No shading or anything because I figured out what I want to do for the basing of all my Nighthaunt models, but that is for 4-ish videos from now. It's a little ways away still. I still got Spirit House to do. Then I'm going to do the basing video, but there's 2 other videos that I'm making in between those. So it'll be a little bit away, but I will finish the Nighthaunts hopefully within a month. Maybe, I don't know. After I got all that stuff painted up and finished, I then grabbed some super glue instead of the plastic cement that I've been using, which I'll be honest, it isn't really holding together all that much. Maybe I'm not doing it right. And I glued all the models to their bases. I decided to put most of them off to one side, so when I do get to the basing video, I know exactly how I want to base them, and I have a little bit more area to base them with. But for now, we're not basing anything, so that means these models, for now, for at least this video, are complete. Before the final reveal, I just want to say, if you made it all the way here, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do all the algorithm stuff if you did, and tell me what you thought of my story in the comments below. If you're looking to watch some more content, at the end of the video, I will have on the end card a video from this channel and a video from my other gaming channel that, if you feel like it, you go watch either of them. Now, let's look at these completed models in my new photography and storage area.